Okay, welcome. Coach Kevin here, and we're going to go ahead and get started now. First thing I want to go ahead and do is share some things with you. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And let's see. Yeah, you guys don't really need that, nor do you really need that. What I wanted to share with you, let's go ahead and start right here. Okay. First thing I want to do is share with you that we have, for those of you that are brand new with us, first time, welcome. Thanks for being here on a Thanksgiving. I know it's 10 o'clock my time, could be 1 p.m. your time or somewhere in between. Thanks for taking this bit of time today to do something to help yourself make your life a little bit better. Anyhow, we have a Facebook group that coincides with the meetup, has exactly the same name, except it doesn't say the city next to it. It's called I Want to Be Really Rich, and I do not apologize for it. I would invite you to come join the Facebook group for multiple reasons. Uh, Reason number one, it gives you an opportunity to interact with us outside of the 45 minutes or so we have each day, Monday through Friday. The other reason is it's a place where we post things like special announcements like this one. The other reason is it is a place where, like for instance, today, we're going to be going through and studying something together. And this is where you can find the file for it and go ahead and download it so that you have a copy of it. And then the other thing, if you go through here, you can see, bam, there's yesterday's recording and the day before's recording and whatnot. So what we do is we go ahead and put the recordings each day, as long as I remember to hit the record button. So far, I've remembered every day to hit that button. And this is where you can find it. So if you're trying to get caught up on something we've been studying, you can go here and see the previous recordings. If you like something you hear while you're in a session together with us in a Zoom meeting and you want to go review it, you can. This is another way to go ahead and do that. But if you want to follow along, if you want to have access to that document, come find us. The URL is facebook.com/groups/ I want to be really rich. And for those of you that are here right now, I'm going to put that link, hopefully, go ahead and try anyhow, to put the link into chat really quick for you. Hopefully, though, if you were to click on it, it doesn't take you out of Zoom. Hope not. There you go. But if anybody hops on here later, they won't see it because they only get to see in chat what was there while they were in the meeting. So, but there you go. Makes it a little bit easier for you to come find us and come join us. Let me go share my screen again so we can continue on. Okay, so we have just finished up yesterday a book called The Science of Getting Rich. And we were trying to determine if we were going to jump into something, a little that was going to take a few days or just do something for today. I decided to just do something for today. I've been mentored and trained personally by Robert Kiyosaki and Sharon Lechter. If you think of Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Robert's the author, and Sharon's the co-author. And I've also been personally coached, trained, and mentored by Bob Proctor with his team. Matter of fact, I've been a coach and facilitator for Bob and his team. I'm independent at this point. However, I still stay in touch with his associates, and I have a lot of friends that are, just a lot of friends. I have multiple friends. There you go. Great people that I've met as a result of that experience that are also coaches and facilitators that I still work together with from time to time and mastermind with. So the document, if you went and got it, great. You can follow along that way. However, if you didn't go grab it yet, or you decide to go grab it later, that's fine. Because I have it right here, and hopefully you guys can all see that. I tried to put it as big as possible on my screen to fill it up. So hopefully it looks pretty big to you guys too. And I'm going to go ahead and read and share this with you. It's something that Bob Proctor gave to me. And it is really an important topic, especially when we're talking about making more money and creating wealth for ourselves. It's an important topic for a lot of reasons, but those are two of the reasons. It fits right in with what we're doing. So decision, and this was again put together and written by Bob Proctor. And it's not very long. So here we go. There's a single mental move you can make, which in a millisecond will solve enormous problems for you. It has the potential to improve almost any personal or business situation you will ever encounter. And it could literally propel you down the path to incredible success. We have a name for this magic mental activity. It is called decision. Decisions, or lack of them, are responsible for the breaking or making of many a career. Individuals who become very proficient at making decisions without being influenced by the opinion of others, there's a key there, are the same people whose annual incomes fall into the 6 and 7 figure category. However, it is not just your income that is affected by decisions. Your whole life is dominated by this power. The health of your mind and body, the well-being of your family, your social life, the type of relationships you develop, are all dependent upon your ability to make sound decisions. You would think anything as important as decision making, when it has such a far-reaching power, would be taught in every school, but it is not. To compound the problem, not only is decision making missing from the curriculum of our educational institutions, up until recently, it's also been absent from most of the corporate training and human resource programs available. So how's a person expected to develop this mental ability? Quite simply, you must do it on your own. However, I think it's important to understand that it's not difficult to learn how to make wise decisions. Armed with the proper information, and by subjecting yourself to certain disciplines, you can become a very effective decision maker. You can virtually eliminate conflict and confusion in your life by becoming proficient at making decisions. Decision making brings order to your mind, and of course, this order is then reflected in your objective world, your results. James Allen may have been thinking of decisions when he wrote, "We think in secret, and it comes to pass. Environment is but our looking glass." No one can see you making decisions, but they will almost always see the results of your decisions. The person who fails to develop their ability to make decisions is doomed, because indecision sets up internal conflicts which can, without warning, escalate into all-out mental and emotional wars. Psychiatrists have a name to describe these internal wars. It is ambivalence. My Oxford Dictionary tells me that ambivalence is the coexistence in one person of opposite feelings toward the same objective. You do not require a doctorate degree in psychiatry to understand that you're going to have difficulty in your life by permitting your mind to remain in an ambivalent state for any period of time. The person who does permit it to exist will become very despondent and virtually incapable of any type of productive activity. It is obvious that anyone who finds themselves in such a mental state is not living at best, they are merely existing. A decision or a series of decisions would change everything. A very basic law of the universe is create or disintegrate. Indecision causes disintegration. How often have you heard a person say, "I don't know what to do"? How often have you heard yourself say, "What should I do"? Think about some of the indecisive feelings you and virtually everyone on this planet experience from time to time. Love them, leave them. Quit, stay. Do it, don't do it. Go bankrupt, don't. Go to work, watch TV. Buy it, don't buy it. Say it, don't say it. Tell them, don't tell them. Everyone, on occasion, has experienced these feelings of ambivalence. If it happens to you frequently, decide right now to stop it. The cause of ambivalence is indecision, but we must keep in mind that the truth is not always in the appearance of things. Indecision is a cause of ambivalence. However, it is a secondary cause. It is not the primary cause. The behavior of people who have become very proficient at making decisions for over a quarter century. They all have one thing in common. They have a very strong self-image, a high degree of self-esteem. They may be as different as night is to day in numerous other respects, but they certainly possess confidence. Low self-esteem or lack of confidence is the real culprit here. Decision makers are not afraid of making an error. If and when they make an error in their decision or fail at something, they have the ability to shrug it off. They learn from the experience, but they will never submit to the failure. Every decision maker was either fortunate enough to have been raised in an environment where decision making was a part of their upbringing, or they developed the ability themselves at a later date. They are aware of something that everyone who hopes to live a full life must understand. Decision making is something you cannot avoid. What is the cardinal principle of decision making? Decide right where you are with whatever you've got. Let me repeat that. The cardinal principle of decision making: decide right now where you are with whatever you've got. This is precisely why most people never master this important aspect of life. They permit their resources to dictate if and when a decision will or can be made. When John Kennedy asked Wernher von Braun what it would take to build a rocket that would carry a man to the moon and return him safely to Earth, his answer was simple and direct: the will to do it. President Kennedy never asked if it was possible. He never asked if they could afford it, or any one of 1,000 other questions, all which would have at that time been valid questions. President Kennedy made a decision. He said, "We will put a man on the moon and return him safely to Earth before the end of the decade." The fact that it had never been done before in all the hundreds of thousands of years of human history was not even a consideration. He decided where he was with what he had. The objective was accomplished in his mind. Listen to this. The objective was accomplished in his mind the second he made the decision. It was only a matter of time, which is governed by natural law, before the goal was manifested in form for the whole world to see. I was, just hours ago, in an office with 3 people who were discussing the purchase of shares in a company. I was selling, they were buying. After a reasonable amount of time, one of the partners asked me when I wanted a decision. I replied, "Right now." I said, "You already know what you want to do." There was some discussion about money. I pointed out that money had nothing to do with it. Once you make the decision, you will find the money every time. If that is the only benefit you receive from this particular message on decision making, burn it into your mind. It will change your life. I explained to 2 of these people that I never let money enter my mind when I'm deciding whether I will or will not do something. Interesting how he thinks, right, guys? Never lets money enter into his mind when he's deciding whether he will or will not do something. Whether I can afford it or not is never a consideration. Whether I want to or not is the only consideration. Let me repeat that. Whether I can afford it or not is never a consideration. Whether I want to or not is the only consideration. You can afford anything. There's an infinite supply of money. All the money in the world is available to you. When the decision is firmly made, if you need money, you will attract it. I'm well aware there are any number of people who will say that is absurd. You can't just decide to do something if you do not have the necessary resources. And that's fine if that is the way they choose to think. I see that as a very limited way of thinking. In truth, it's probably not thinking at all. It is very likely an opinion being expressed that was inherited from another older member of their family who did not think either. Thinking is very important. Decision makers are great thinkers. Do you ever give much consideration to your thoughts, how they affect the various aspects of your life? Although this should be one of our most serious considerations, for many people it is not. There's a very small select few who make any attempt to control or govern their thoughts. Anyone who has made a study of the great thinkers, the great decision makers, the achievers of history, will know they very rarely agreed on anything when it came to the study of human life. However, there was one point on which they were in complete and unanimous agreement, and that was, we become what we think about. What do you think about? You and I must realize that our thoughts ultimately control every decision we make. You are the sum total of your thoughts. By taking charge this very minute, you can guarantee yourself a good day. Refuse to let unhappy people or circumstances affect you. The greatest stumbling block you will ever encounter when making important decisions in your life is circumstance. We let circumstance get us off the hook when we should be giving it everything we've got. More dreams are shattered and goals lost because of circumstances than any other single factor. How often have you caught yourself saying, I would like to do or have this, but I can't because? Whatever follows because is the circumstance. Circumstances may cause a detour in your life, but you should never permit them to stop you from making important decisions. Napoleon said, circumstances, I make them. The next time you hear someone say they would like to vacation in Paris or purchase a particular automobile, but they can't because they have no money, explain they don't need the money until they make the decision to go to Paris or purchase the car. When the decision is made, they will figure out a way to get the amount needed. They always do. Many misguided individuals try something once or twice, and if they do not hit the bullseye, they feel they are a failure. Failing does not make anyone a failure, but quitting most certainly does, and quitting is a decision. By following that form of reasoning, you would have to say when you make a decision to quit, you make a decision to fail. Every day in America, you hear about a baseball player signing a contract which will pay him a few $1,000,000 a year. You should try to keep in mind that same player misses the ball more often than he hits it when he steps up to the plate. Everyone remembers Babe Ruth for the 714 home runs he hit, and they rarely mention that he struck out 1,330 times. Charles F. Kettering said, and I quote, when you're inventing, if you flunk 999 times and succeed once, you're in. That is true of just about any activity you can name, but the world would soon forget your failures in light of your achievements. Don't worry about failing. It will toughen you up and get you ready for your big win. Winning is a decision. Many years ago, Helen Keller was asked if she thought there was anything worse than being blind. She quickly replied that there was something much worse. She said, the most pathetic person in the world is a person who has their sight but no vision. I agreed with Helen Keller. At 91 years old, 91, J.C. Penney was asked how his eyesight was. He replied that his sight was failing, but his vision had never been better. That's really great, isn't it? When a person has no vision of a better way of life, they automatically shut themselves in a prison. They limit themselves to a life without hope. This frequently happens when a person has seriously tried on a number of occasions to win, only to meet with failure time after time. Repeated failures can damage a person's self-image and cause them to lose sight of their potential. They therefore make a decision to give up and resign themselves to their fate. Take the first step in predicting your own prosperous future. Build a mental picture of exactly how you would like to live. Make a firm decision to hold on to that vision, and positive ways to improve everything will begin to flow into your mind. Many people get a beautiful vision of how they would like to live, but because they cannot see how they're going to make it all happen, they let the vision go. If they knew how they were going to get it or do it, they would have a plan, not a vision. There is no inspiration in a plan, but there sure is in a vision. When you get the vision, freeze frame it with a decision, and don't worry about how you will do it or where the resources will come from. Charge your decision with enthusiasm. That is important. Refuse to worry about how it will happen. Advanced decision making. We make advanced bookings when we fly somewhere. That is quite common. We make advanced reservations to eliminate any confusion or problems when the time arrives for the journey. We do the same with renting a car. For the same reason, think of the problems you will eliminate by making many of the decisions you must make well in advance. I'll give you an excellent example. As I'm preparing this message, it is Ramadan, a time where all practicing Muslims fast. I was in an office yesterday in Kuala Lumpur and was asked if I'd like a cup of tea or coffee. I replied that I would appreciate a cup of tea. The lady next to me was then asked if she would like a cup, and she replied, "No, I'm fasting." When she was asked, she did not have to decide whether she wanted anything or not. Whether she was thirsty or not was not a consideration. A decision had previously been made, and her advanced decision was well tempered with discipline. The exact same concept works with a person when they're on a diet to release weight. Their decisions are made in advance. If they're offered a big slice of chocolate cake, they don't say, "Gee, that looks good. I wonder if I should." The decision is made in advance. I made a decision a long time ago that I would not participate in discussions of why something cannot be done. The only compensation you will ever receive for participating in or giving energy to that type of discussion is something you do not want. I always find it amazing at the number of seemingly intelligent people who persist in dragging you into these negative brainstorming sessions. In one breath, these people tell you they seriously want to accomplish a particular objective. And in the next breath, they begin talking about why they can't. Think of how much more of life they would enjoy by making a decision that they will no longer participate in the hype or that type of negative energy. The human psychologist Dr. Abraham Maslow, who devoted his life to studying self-actualized people, stated very clearly that we should follow our inner guide and not be swayed by the opinion of others or outside circumstances. Maslow's research showed that the decision makers in life had a number of things in common. Most importantly, they did work they felt was worthwhile and important. They found work a pleasure, and there was little distinction between work and play. Dr. Maslow said, to be self-actualized, you must not only be doing work you consider to be important, you must do it well and enjoy it. Dr. Maslow recorded that these superior performers had values, those qualities in their personalities they considered to be worthwhile and important. Their values were not imposed by society, parents, or other people in their lives. They did make their own decisions. Like their work, they chose and developed their values themselves. Your life is important, and at its best, life is short. You have the potential to do anything you choose and to do it well, but you must make decisions. And when the time for decision arrives, you must make your decision where you are with what you've got. Let me leave you with the words of two great decision makers, William James and Thomas Edison. William James suggested that, compared to what we ought to be, we are making use of only a small part of our physical and mental resources. Stating this concept broadly, the human individual thus lives far within his limits. He possesses powers of various sorts, which he habitually fails to use. Years later, Thomas Edison said, and I quote, "If we all did the things we were capable of doing, we would literally astound ourselves." By making a simple decision, the greatest minds of the past are available to you. You can literally learn how to turn your wildest dreams into reality. Put this valuable information to use and recognize the greatness which exists within you. You have limitless resources of potential and ability waiting to be developed. Start today. There's never any better time than the present. Be all that you're capable of being. Awesome. All right. Come out of screen share here. Thanks for the thumbs up. For those of you that joined us a little bit later, let me show you, I'm going to go back in the screen share for just a moment and show you where to find what we were going through. Okay. What you have to do to get it is you got to join our Facebook group. I want to be really rich and I do not apologize for it. Once you ask to join it, it's the same exact name, by the way, as the meetup group, just without the city. So go into Facebook, you see the search, start typing this in, you'll find us, ask to join us. And okay, after the announcement, boom, there it is right here. You can get into the group, click it, download it, and now you've got a copy. Also, this is where we archive the recordings of previous days' messages. So this will be posted later today or sometime tomorrow. But if you want access to this particular training by Bob Proctor, it was nice and short and sweet and very powerful. One of the most powerful things we probably could have chosen to go through today. So wanted to share that with you. Okay, I'm going to come off a share and see smiling faces or names or pictures of faces or whatnot. And this is a time where we have the opportunity to share or ask questions, anything that maybe stuck out for you in what we were reading, any ahas that you got, any experiences you have with particularly decision making, either doing and or not doing. Let's learn, okay, from each other. And then maybe any questions that you might have. At this point, if you want to say something and share something, just come off of mute and go for it. And then we'll take you in the order that you start talking. And we've got roughly, we got a little bit of time here. We got about 15 minutes or so to do this. All right, go for it.
Hi, this is Rose.
Hi, Rose.
Hi, I would like to ask when you are manifesting things,
Mhm.
is there a time limit? So, say for instance, if I wanted to manifest a house,
Okay.
so say if I don't get it within a year, does that mean I'm doing something wrong?
Nope. Well, okay.
So,
um,
and,
that it doesn't automatically mean you're doing something wrong.
mhm.
You could be doing things right. So one of the things, and I've learned this myself, but one of the things that Bob and I went talking about this together, he shared with me that he puts a date on everything that he wants to accomplish to help keep him focused, to help keep him staying engaged with doing what he needs to do to manifest that. However, it's kind of actually rare that he hits it on the exact date. Okay. Think about it this way a little bit. Okay. Think about it like a woman who's pregnant, right?
Mhm.
A woman who's pregnant, we know about on average, right? That's going to take X amount of time. We say 9 months, right? The doctor, you go in, you see, and he gives you a due date. Does the baby always come out on the due date?
No,
Does the baby usually come out on the due date?
I would think they'll say usually.
Well, before or after, but on the exact date that you put.
No, not on the exact date. No.
It's kind of rare, right? But the doctor typically is within the ballpark. But is it possible to have the baby a month and a half early and things turn out okay?
Yes.
Is it possible to have the baby, a couple, 2, 3 weeks later than you thought, and everything's going to turn out okay?
Yes.
Right? So if a woman is expecting a baby to come and you're anticipating this, most people I've seen my wife do this as we were having children, which was a while back. Our children are in their 20s. But when we were having children, the closer it actually got to the date where the baby was, our children were supposed to be born, the more my wife was preparing to receive the baby. Does that make sense? Like there's this natural tendency to prepare yourself. And if on the date of the baby, which by the way, in our situation, my daughter was within a couple days later, but my son, I think he was liking the nice warm bath. He liked the jacuzzi. So he didn't want to come out. he wanted to stay inside, I think. And so he did for a while. But it eventually was induced so that he would finally let go and come out. But anyhow, the closer it got to the date, once the date had happened and my son was born, My wife didn't go, oh crap, the doctor gave me a due date. The baby wasn't born on this day. So there must be something wrong, right? She went and saw the doctor and said, no, things are fine. And if we go past, a certain amount of time, we'll induce to make this a little bit easier. Because if we go too long, then there could be complications, problems, or whatever. That's a little bit of an example. It's not exact, right? But it's a little bit of an example of when we put something out there. There's this law, and we're going to go through these. So you're going to stay with us, because I think this is the next thing we're going to go do and study, is we're going to go into the universal laws. And one of those is the law of gestation. And it's going to show you that everything that we have has a finite gestation period before we receive it. And it's going to tell you what to do about it when you pick a particular date and maybe it hasn't shown up yet. But essentially what Bob told me was there have been times where he's set goals. And I know there have been for me too, but the reason he was sharing this with me is he had a lot more experience. And he goes, I used to, be a little bit concerned about it. Now I just go, okay, I was off on that on my inspiration. Set your goals with inspiration of what you feel it's going to be and work towards that, having that happen. But maybe it's going to happen sooner. There's actually a lot of times where he had set some pretty big goals that he thought would take longer, and God and the universe delivered them early, like significantly earlier. And there's some times where he was off by days, weeks, months. Sometimes it wasn't the right year for it to happen. And when it did finally happen, it was so much better than what he originally anticipated. He's grateful it took a little more time for it to happen. So is that helpful at all, Rose?
Yes, that's very helpful.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. Any other questions or comments from anyone? Some of us are a little bit screen shy, maybe.
Yeah, I've got one.
Okay.
Okay. I'm learning about the law of attraction, and there's a lot of people that talk about the law of attraction, and it just seems like basically the law of attraction states that what you think about, you bring about. So does that mean anything that happens is because of the law of attraction? I'm just trying to understand this.
Okay. So first of all, not instantaneously, typically. That would be scary. Because if we're mad, right, and we want to hurt someone and kill someone, we don't want to go off and do that instantly, right? We want some time to pass so we have a chance to change the direction of our thoughts and feelings so that we don't always go with what comes to mind, right? So I'm playing with you a little bit. Okay. What we do more than anything, or how the law of attraction works, is we are always vibrating something, and the vibration that we're putting out is in relationship to our thoughts. How do we know if what we're putting out is good or bad? It's actually kind of simple. How do you feel at the moment, right? At any given moment, you really can't ask yourself, how am I feeling right now? And if that feeling is joyful and happy and uplifting and energetic and whatnot, even if you weren't specifically focused on a specific goal at that moment, right? Or your vision or whatever, because you're emanating that kind of vibration, the law of attraction, which is really God and the universe is essentially energy, matter. They're receiving that signal and they're basically mirroring back to you the essence of that. That's what's in the process. Okay. If you're kind of down in the, I don't want to talk too much, but if you're down in the dumps, blah, blah, right? The opposite feeling, like you ask yourself, how am I feeling? And it's not a good feeling. Whatever it is, doesn't matter. It's not a good feeling. Thank goodness, again, it's not instantaneous, but we are emanating out of vibration, which matter and energy actually work towards mirroring back to you the essence of what you're feeling once again. So first of all, your feelings can kind of give you an idea at any given time. Is what I'm putting out there and emanating something that's going to please me or something I'm not going to be very happy with if I continue in this process, right? So we don't know it. We probably have not been aware most of our lives how that functions. So let's not think strictly about like goals and things just yet. Let's just think about our general, you know, comportment, the way that we present ourselves to the world. You don't have to think of something specific negative to have that thing come back to you. You can just be in a vibration of fear or worry or guilt or shame or whatever it is, and that's going to end up coming back to you. Or you can be in a feeling and thought of positive vibration in the sense of happy and joyful and playful and fun, and things are going to emanate back that way. So yes, there are also interactions with other people and their thoughts and feelings. I'm going to give you a personal opinion right now. COVID currently is going through what we're going through with COVID, what we're going through, and making it take the process it's taking because the mass consciousness is feeling a certain way about it. And based on the belief of the mass consciousness believes that we must have, you know, immunization, right? They must come up with that type of cure. We must be immunized against it, or it could get us, right? So they're trying to come up with that type of a cure. Because we live in a modern society, I believe they will come up with it, because that is our belief system, that eventually they will. So we're waiting around for this to happen. It won't be an infinite amount of time before it happens, because collectively we think our doctors in the world are smart enough that they will eventually do it. The problem is we also have this big fear of all the damage that will be done in the meantime. Right? So, but if we didn't believe that they could come up with some form of immunization against it, they never would. But also, if we truly didn't believe that it could make us sick at a subconscious level, it couldn't. That's my opinion. Why do I say that? And why do I feel strongly that I know that? I'm not a doctor. Okay. But mostly because of this. When I was younger, I would tend to, I want to talk about it because I want to manifest it this year. Okay. But basically there's this flu. I won't say there's a flu season, right? That's out there, by the way. I think that's where our spike's coming from, is we've already been programmed. There's a flu season, and we're kind of in the months of the year that's when it happens. So we've already programmed ourselves annually to be afraid of the flu in the first place. Not everybody, but that's the collective. So we got these thoughts and feelings that are emanating from the mass consciousness. And as a result of that, more people will get sick. But what am I talking about? Well, I didn't get sick all that much as a kid, or even as a young adult. However, I did every year. And for a while, and usually and what I'd say to myself is, oh yeah, I get sick once a year. It's usually around this time. I'm out, I'm kind of out for a week or two. And then eventually I learned a little bit more about this, and I should have went this direction first, but I didn't. So the first direction I went with was, okay, this is what happens, but it only lasts a few days. And over the next following several years, the time that I was sick got to be shorter. I still got sick almost every year, roughly around the same time. Then I realized, well, if that worked to make it shorter, I should have just made it work so that I don't get sick, period. And to be perfectly honest, I don't know, because I don't tally up the years, but it's got to be at least 8 to 10 years since I've had the cold flu or anything like that.
Wow. That's good.
Right. So my programming won't allow it to happen. Thank goodness. I'm happy about that. So I could probably walk into a room of people that are totally sick and hang out there and be okay for that day. But if I come in there and I hang out with these people and all I hear is how sick and how blah, 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 now I'm reprogramming myself for what I used to think. And then I would probably end up getting sick. people also do that. The law of attraction, when they first start learning about it, they're pretty excited, just like when they first watch The Secret or read a book or something like that, because, oh, wow, cool stuff's happening. I did manifest this thing and this thing, and this is kind of fun. But then you go for that big thing, and it's not a big thing to God or the universe, but you're going for that thing that your programming is totally in opposition to. That's what I mean by a big thing. And now your subconscious is going to fight back with you on it. That's why those things aren't manifesting as easily. And so then we start going, oh, this crap doesn't work. Well, all the little things were working for you. And when I say little again, here's what I mean by little. It's not the size, the amount. It was you didn't have anything in your mind fighting against it. So you said, I'm going to try that out. That would be fun. And boom, I manifest the coffee. I manifest the parking spot. Somebody called me up on the phone, all the things that the people tell you to play around with to see if this works. But then you say, great, I want a house. I want a car. I want, and if our subconscious mind and our self-image doesn't see us as a person having that yet, your subconscious mind will then go fight you. So you got to learn how to train your subconscious, retrain. It's your subconscious mind to accept something else as normal. Once your subconscious mind accepts something else to be normal and that it should be the way it is for you, then it actually helps you go get it and gets out of your way and becomes one of your best friends instead of your worst enemies in receiving what you want. So hopefully that's a little bit helpful, what I just shared with you.
Yeah, it is.
Okay, cool. And we'll go, obviously, we'll go deeper into, as time goes on, more things. So you'll hear and learn more and understand a little bit. But, a lot of people, what they want to ask is, well, why would God allow this, that, or the other? I have a slightly different take on it. I'm not saying it's fun or good or great, but I don't believe that this life that we're living right now here on earth is like when we die, we poof out of existence. As terrible as things might seem right now, for some people think it's pretty wonderful. They're living a pretty great life. That's because they've learned to work. Either they became aware and started working with the universal laws in harmony, or they were shown the example by somebody else, and they're what you call unconscious competent. They can't really even explain to you how they do things and why things are working for them. So they give you little platitudes like, well, I just work hard. It's like, no, so do I. Okay, don't tell me that. Don't tell me that. Okay, give me something I can really, do something with. So anyhow, thank you for the question. I'll take one more. If anybody would like.
Okay, I have a question if nobody else does.
Okay. Hi.
It's Rika. Hi.
Hi, Rika.
Kevin, and I'll ask my question behind it, okay?
Okay.
If I were in a little rowboat in the middle of the ocean, no land in sight, my rowboat springs a leak. It's got a itty bitty hole and water starts coming in it. Now, do I sit in that rowboat and say, okay, the rowboat's not going to go down and I'm going to be fine? It's possible. I don't think it's possible that anything's going to come up from the bottom of the hole and plug up the hole, but it's possible that there might be some debris or something in the rowboat that can be trying to go through the hole and plug it. Right? It's possible. Do I sit and wait, or do I start searching for that something that's going to plug up that hole?
Okay. So
first, when you're manifesting, do you just manifest up here, or do you start trying physically to do your part in making it happen?
Okay. So first thing I would say about your example, and I like how, if you know who Esther Hicks is, she talks about there are examples that could be real, but they're kind of ludicrous because people are wanting to test this thing, right? If I'm flying on an airplane, I don't have a parachute and somebody throws me out, can I manifest? No, seriously. I mean, people will ask. So your question's kind of like that a little bit, but you said some things about it. I believe this and this and this. I already believe it could, because I think there could be something in the, look, if that's your belief, maybe, okay. But if that's your belief, the first thing you probably would have done was search for that thing, because that's what you already believed. You would probably start, depending on who you are and how you think and feel. I don't know if your prayer would start at the beginning or if your prayer would start when you ran out of things to try that you knew how to do. Okay.
Then I guess I'm thinking, okay, when we're manifesting, like you were talking about, you haven't been sick in 10 years. You just manifest it, but you're not doing anything different with your diet.
I had
You,
no, I'm overweight according to the world. And by the way, according to myself, I am too. That's something to work on. Okay. But let me share something with you too. And here's why I want to share that. Most people know who Oprah is, right?
yeah.
I think Oprah probably, unless there's somebody that hopped on here today that I'm not aware of, Oprah probably has more wealth and money than all of us combined that are on this call today, right? Oprah, his weight has fluctuated. Anybody who's seen her has fluctuated over the years more times than we can count, right? Like many of us have lived. Here's what I would say in that determination. In the area of her self-image around weight, there's something for it. It hasn't been reprogrammed yet to give her what she wants. But in her area around wealth and money and things like that, it's been programmed so strong that she pretty much manifests most any other things that she wants.
Mm-hmm.
So Oprah is someone I can learn from. And when she tells me what to go do for weight loss, that might not be where I want to get my advice from. Just I wouldn't ask me for advice on that. Okay. But when it comes to money or wealth building, I'm probably someone that's decent to ask for those types of questions. Oprah absolutely would be, right? But here's the other thing too. Oprah does understand the process for manifesting, but I talked about this before in a previous class. Our subconscious mind is designed to help us stay alive, all this other stuff, but it's also designed to help us master something and put it on autopilot. So what has happened for Oprah is she's mastered certain things and now they're on autopilot. And there's other things that she hasn't mastered yet, so it's not on autopilot. So she still has those struggles around those. We have so many things going on in our life that we've got to take those, and we take them a step at a time, and we receive what we learn how to manifest. We learn the laws, but our faith, Oprah's faith around money is strong. Her faith around food isn't. Simple as that. Because the process for her to be in the shape she wants to be and have the money she wants to have is actually exactly the same process. But her belief and faith that it worked for one thing versus another is different. That's why and how do we know? We can tell by the outcome. So we don't necessarily, as we learn this stuff, we start trying it with other things as our faith grows, and we start seeing that one work, and then that one work, and then that one work, and then that one work. And we may try it with something else and not be quite as successful with it at first. Okay. Do we keep going in that direction? It doesn't matter. It depends on how important it is to us at the time, and how we feel about it at the time. But to get to the point of the sick, the reason I bring that up is I also know too, there was a short period of time for me. It was roughly, I'm going to say 3 or 4 months. I lost 20 pounds, or let go of 20 pounds. I like how Bob put that in the writing, right? Released. Because when you lose something, your subconscious mind wants to try and find it.
Yeah.
Semantics, but kind of some truth to that. But I became smaller by about 20 pounds over a period of about 3 or 4 months without changing any eating habits and without eating anything actually good. I wanted to experiment a little bit. So I told myself that my body is burning off what it needs and taking in what it needs, and it's letting go of the rest. And I did it for a period of time, but I didn't continue on with it. I got distracted. I was doing other things. And so I didn't put that focus out there long enough for it to become the same thing as the sickness thing. But the sickness thing wasn't as strong emotionally for me either, because it only happened once a year. And I used it as an excuse to take, I took 2 weeks off, but it's kind of what I used to do. of whatever it was I was doing. I could survive for 2 weeks without doing something, right? Even though I didn't feel good, nobody wants to feel bad for 2 weeks, but it wasn't the end of the world for me. So I didn't have this emotional attachment where with food and things like that, I love food. Okay. So a lot of people, I think we all do in some way. So the emotional thing was a little bit different there. But your hole in the boat kind of thing is, again, it's fun to ask that kind of question and to play with it, but it's better off that you use the energy of your thinking to do something with your energy and your thinking that will actually get you a result than to ask that kind of a question, I guess. I'm not trying to be mean to you. I'm just trying to say that, hey, what you'll get more out of is saying, hey, here's something that's really going on, and this is what I need help with, versus this hypothetical, I'm in a boat with a hole. Because that's the whole story too of you hear the story about the person who prayed to God and there was a flood coming and
Yeah.
rains and everything,
Yeah.
right? And God sends the boat or the 4-wheel drive, then the
Yeah.
boat, then the helicopter, then they die. Then they ask God, why did you let die? He looks and goes, well, I sent you all that stuff with the, why didn't you take
Yeah.
it? And by the way, that's true too. Also,
Mhm.
you know what God might have told you that day if you'd have been paying attention? Don't take that boat on the water today.
That's true.
You don't
That's
belong in
true.
that boat in the first place. And we get ourselves into boats a lot of time, right? I mean,
Yeah.
by our thinking.
Yeah. And I've had that happen where I've had an instinct, don't, Rika, don't go. Don't go. I just knew, I just felt it. Something really bad would happen and almost inevitable
Yeah.
that something happened.
The bummer is when we don't go, a lot of times we don't get the rest of the story to find out,
Yes.
right?
We never
Sometimes we
know.
do. We get to see in the paper, somebody tells us, or we're like, oh, thank goodness, right? But most of the time, we don't get to know that. We don't know what we were just saved from, possibly. But on the flip side too, when you get the nudge, go do it, even if it doesn't feel comfortable or normal. If it's revelation, inspiration, intuition, go do it.
Yeah.
So
I think we can get burnt enough that we just know, just follow your instincts. You don't need the rest of the story. Just follow your instincts because you've already experienced the rest of the story a few times.
Yep. All right, everybody. I thank you for actually coming on today. Definitely. So I could have some people to play with, have fun with, share with on a Thanksgiving. I was wondering if anybody was going to show up. So thank you guys so much. And I look forward to seeing you tomorrow.
Kevin, can I ask you a quick question about the Facebook page?
Uh-huh.
I'm going,
The group.
yeah, the group. I've joined, as you know, and I want to go through back to the beginning, and I went all the way to the bottom and going to start watching. If we have questions on the past things, can we post questions there, or you don't like that?
No, I don't mind. I mean, as long
Okay.
as it's not what you just did.
No, I'm sorry.
No,
I just
I'm
wanted to
not mad. I'm not
mention
mad
it.
at the question. There's always somebody that wants. I'm just trying to say, hey, look, you got somebody here that has some experience that can help you. You might want to ask a question that will help you.
I just really wanted to make it so big that do I just sit in faith or should I do something? You
Well,
know?
yeah, well, in that scenario right there, it's just you all by yourself in the boat. After you have prayed, if you receive a response, I see your way of prayer. If you receive intuition, revelation, inspiration to do something, that's when you do it, right? But if your first thought, the other thing too is God and the universe will help us out. They also trust us. They trust us in the sense that, hey, I trained you to do something. You thought about a possibility. Why don't you go look for that? So
Yeah.
I would,
Okay.
unless it's a giant hole, if it's trickling in, I would say my prayer and what I would visualize is here's how I would get myself out of that problem. Okay. To be more specific, I wouldn't visualize myself trying to fix that boat. I would visualize myself with my family safe doing something in the future.
Mhm.
later on that
Oh,
day.
that's good.
Because ultimately I would not be with my family doing something I'm enjoying doing safely if somehow I didn't come through this process okay.
Yeah.
That's actually and it's a little easier for the subconscious mind to play with that too. Leslie Householder, a friend of mine, the person I went through the Science of Getting Rich training with the very first time for that 3-day seminar, she's like, it, because you understand these things, but sometimes you don't want to slow down. She likes trying to do stuff.
Mhm.
I'm glad that I do too. I like to think and plan and whatever, but I think I'm a little more chill on that, so it helped me a little bit easier. But she's got this inspiration. She was looking for something as silly as her packing tape, and she
Yeah.
knew what closet or whatever she thought it was going to be in. And she looked and couldn't find it, getting frustrated. She's like, and then she got the thought, well, use your training. And she's like, I don't want to. I don't want to, right? She knows what to do, but it's like, I don't want to. It's the mechanic, whose car isn't working, right? I don't want to. But then she's like, okay. So she goes and sits on the couch and relaxes and shuts her eyes. And in her mind, with her hands, she's like, she's not searching for, she's feeling the packing tape in her hand.
Mhm.
She's holding it, she's feeling it, what it feels like. She feels the roughness on her hand and the stickiness right here. And now she can visualize herself with the packing tape in her hand. And now she takes it and she starts using the packing tape in her imagination, doing what it was she needed the packing tape for in the first place. And once she did that and had this calm, peaceful feeling, she walked back, went to the closet, and inside this box, there it was.
Yeah.
Probably there the whole time. She says, I don't know. She goes, I know I've looked at that. I had to look, she's like, I don't know if it materialized in there because I did that or what. It doesn't matter. But it happened because something as simple as that, right? Obey the laws as much as possible, and you don't have to work so hard in your life. But if you want to work your butts off, guys, you're welcome to it. And God in the universe will allow that to happen if that's what you want.
I like what you said about that you think about a future time when you're in a bad situation, because that future time can only come if you overcome this bad situation.
Mhm. That's why I learned
So
to do
it's
it. Bob told me to do it. Another person, David Nagel, who was also trained by Bob, he did that when Bob was mentoring him. He was stuck on an airline situation, didn't have snow and flight and all this other stuff. And he was talking with Bob, and Bob's like, well, then manifest it. He's like, oh, really? He's like, look, you've been training people for years. You're a coach and all this stuff. Do you believe it or not? It's like, well, of course I believe. Well, then go manifest it and shut up. Just okay.
so
So
you're doing the same thing basically as when you're telling us to picture ourselves in our future life. If you want a house, picture yourself in that house
yeah,
now.
don't picture a house. Picture yourself in the house,
That's what
using
I've
the
been
house
doing.
the way you would use it as if you already own it, and not as if it's not a fantasy. It's not an imaginary thing like a kid, like the kid when they're playing. Because I'm remembering back as a kid when I was playing the things I played as a boy, right, with my friends. We would sometimes pretend we were somebody else, but I wasn't trying to be somebody else than me. I was just pretending that I was this, right? So I didn't have the intention, or else I might have been, who knows, a police or fireman, whatever I could have turned into, right? But during that time I was playing, in my mind, that's who I was, but I wasn't doing it with the intention of making that my profession, right? With making that my lifestyle. I wasn't that obsessed with it. I was playing with my friends at the time, and we all turned into those characters while we're playing, with the intention that when we're done playing, we're not those characters any longer. Instead of the intention to become that character in real life. But the process is very similar. We have to add the intention to it, and we have to accept it as real instead of make believe. And if we accept it as real versus make believe, eventually, as you keep doing that, that will feel way more real to you than when you come out of it and you look and you go, you're actually going to be dazed as you come back into the world, because you're like, it just, this part is no longer me. This doesn't suit me or feel me. That's really me. And that's when you know that your subconscious mind is more and more acceptant of what it is you're trying to program it with. And once it starts accepting it, the deeper it accepts it, the more it's going to help you. If nothing else, you at least don't want it fighting you. Right?
I'm
But
getting
better
it.
yet, if it's going to accept your new thing as normal, it wants to help you get it.
I'm getting it.
Awesome. All right. Gotta go. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Kevin. Thank
Happy
you.
Thanksgiving.
Thank you. Happy Thanksgiving.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.